Alright, so we're going to use the Mil 55 from Emco to just face off this block of aluminium here. First thing we do is put the block in, make sure there's no swarf on the bottom of the vise, making sure it's flush with the left hand side. It just makes the setup a bit easier later on. You start off with, you've got your 3 buttons on the top here. On the top left here we've got CAD, which is all the drawing part, CAM in the middle for your cutter paths, and NC to control the machine. Start off with by pressing CAM, and then we go over to the yellow button down here and we click Unmachine Part so that we can put the dimensions of the billet in. So X max is from left to right as you see it, which is 51 mil. So I'm going to put that in here as 51. Good idea here, just if you're facing off, is to make a little note of the dimensions because you will need them in a minute. Y max is this dimension, which is 38, which is correct. Now Z max we're going to leave, and we're going to go all the way down to Z min. And Z min is a minus number, it's a negative number. The reason why is because the surface here is Z0, anything above this is positive, anything below this is negative. So we're going to measure from there down, and I measure 42 mil. So that's going to be negative 42, so minus 42. And the last one we fill in is SZ, which is safety in Z, which is the height from the top of the vise to the top of the billet. In this case, it is 22 mil. So I'm going to type in there 22. All the others should be 0. I'm just going to click OK for that. And this red box here now is the outline looking from the top for our work. So what we need to do is, we don't need to draw anything for this because we're going straight in, we're going to be facing off the top. So we can go straight into cycles. So if we click on this button here, which is cycles, and I'm going to find facing, which on the left here, if you hover over these, you can see it comes up with the description. It says face cutting. So I'm going to click face cutting there. So if you're unsure about what to put in here, just have a look at this graphic and it will explain it for you. X and Y are the coordinates that you need to start from. So X and Y here, I'm going to leave as 0, 0, because that's this corner, and I know that corner is 0, 0. Then L is the length. You can see there it says the length, and I put here 51, so that's, I can use that again, 51. Press the tab. H, so this is the depth which we put in earlier, which I said was 38. So this, I'm going to type in 38. E is actually the amount you want the cutter to come past the work. So I always put in here, I always put the radius of the cutter in there. So we're going to use a 10 mil cutter, so I'm going to put 5 in there. Alpha is when we're cutting at an angle, so that's going to stay at 0. ZS is your safety value in Z. I always put that at about 2, that seems quite good. Z is the starting position, so because I said this is Z0, we're going to start cutting at Z0, so that I'm going to leave this as 0. P is how deep you want the cut to go. Now I'm just going to face off this, I'm going to take off half a mil, so I'm going to turn that to, set that to 0.5, 0.5, and I is increments. Now if I was facing off say 5 mil, and I wanted to cut this in increments of half a mil each time, then this would be half a mil and this would be 5. As it turns out, I'm actually going to cut this in one go, so my increment's actually going to be 0.5 as well. Now when I hit return, I go from geometry over to technology, like this, and it asks me for the tooling information. So tool, I know that the 10 mil cutter we have set up here is tool 1, the 6 mil cutter, which is this one, is actually tool 2. D is an offset value, which you can leave as 1, never change that. Feed rates are on the side of the machine, so 200, so I'm going to type 200 in there. Speed is 3000. And delta is, I always, if I'm facing off, I'll put 1 mil less than the diameter of the cutter. So in this case, we've got a 10 mil cutter, I'm going to change that to 9. That gives me like a 1 mil overlap as it's going round the circuit. I don't need to do a finishing cut for this, so I'm going to leave all of that as 0. And then the feed rate in Z, I'm going to have as 20. So I'm going to change that to 20. I'm going to click on this coolant tab here on the bottom, because I have no coolant, and then click capture. And then the setup is completely done. I just need to check now on the simulator to check there's no problems. So if I click on simulation on the top there, A good technique in using this is to go bottom red, middle red, top green. This stops anything that's in the background running, this resets it, and this plays your new simulation. So bottom, middle, and top. So that was in one hit. There was no errors there, so I'm quite happy with that. I now go over to NC. So I've drawn it, which I didn't need to. CAM, which is my cycles, and now NC. I need to set what's called the workpiece datum. This means setting this tool in a position where the computer knows and tell it that's where you are. So first thing I'm going to do is, if I could put the middle of the cutter on this corner, which I know the corner is 0, 0, I would do that, but it's very difficult to find the centre of the cutter. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to cheat slightly and take this out, and I'm going to replace it with this one, which has a point on it. So it thinks this is in, but I'm actually going to swap it for a second and put the point in. So you pull this towards you, and then push the tool into place, and then slowly release it. Don't let go too quickly. Just give it a little spin to check it's okay. And I'm going to put that point exactly over this corner. To do that, you use the keyboard. You've got your left and right, backwards and forwards, up and down. Now you've got to think about the tool moving rather than the metal moving. So if I want to move the tool towards me, I'm going to press 1, which actually moves the bed away from me. So I'm going to press 1. Now I want the tool to move to the right because I need it to move into this corner here. So I'm actually going to press 6. And now you can see that's moving quite quickly. I'm at 120% there. So what I'm going to do is press this minus key on the keyboard and take that down to something probably like 20, maybe 10%. So I can just tune that in to that corner. Getting quite close, so I'm going to move that down to 5%. Now the way to do this is to make sure that you're in line with this side here and in line with this side here. So you probably need to get your head in and look down this way. If I look on the drawing here, I can see that this point on the drawing, if I hover my cursor over it, is actually a point x0, y0. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to tell it that's where you are. So if I click on NC, I'm going to click in X and say you're at 0, enter, enter. Y is 0, enter, enter. Now Z is the height, the depth. I can't put 0 in there because I haven't got the tool in yet. So if I press 8 and lift up, and I'm going to put the right tool in, which is this one. So remember, hold on to the tool before you pull the lever, switch them around, put that in place, give it a little spin, check it's okay. Place that. Now this time I've got to put the cutter flat level with the surface. There's a little trick to doing this. Get it somewhere near. That's pretty close. And then take a piece of paper and then feed that bit of paper underneath like this. Set your feed rate to something like 1%. 1% seems to work for me quite well. And then I'm just going to dab the number 2 on the keyboard to just move that down and keep this moving at all times until it feels like it grips. So I can feel that now, it's starting to grip. I might try a tiny quick. There you go, that's quite good. I'm going to pull that, it's just starting to cut the paper. So now I'm just the thickness of the piece of paper away from the surface of the metal. Now I'm going to set my Z value to 0. 0, enter, enter. And now I'm ready to cut. Now I'm not going to hit go yet because if I've made any mistakes in that, this will go straight into the metal. So I'm going to lift up the tool so I can actually feed it into the work. So if I'm pressing 8 here, that should be fine. And then before I close the door, I'm going to set that to 0 in case I hit this by mistake and set it going. Close the door. Okay, and all your controls now are in this L shape. So you've got a go on the enter, stop on here, delete, this little delete key is a pause. So this will keep spinning, but all of the movements will stop. If you hit pause to resume it, you need to hit enter twice after that. This is your feed rate, faster and slower. At the moment we're at 0, so let's go. Now I'm looking at the Z value, and I'm checking that the distance between the tool and the surface is what's in that Z value. If it looks wrong, you need to stop the machine. You've probably got the wrong tool set if you are wrong. That looks about right. It should stop 2 mil above the surface. That's the safety value we put in. So there you go, there's a 2 mil safety. So I'm quite happy that that's doing what it should be. So I'm going to speed that up to about 30%. Just for that first cut and see where we go. So it's going to go down to 0.5 or minus 0.5 and then start cutting. So just check the depth of your cut before you speed it up. That looks good to me. So I'm going to speed that up to about 80. So we're at 200 on our feed rate. 80% of that gives you a nice cut. I wouldn't really want to go much quicker than that. And that's it. That's A-face.